It's showtime. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Trailblazers and Trailblazerettes, gather around and prepare yourselves for tonight. We journey once more into the Design Gazette, the show where we gallivant across distant cosmos to meet warriors born of thunder and tenacity. From the Shenzhou yaoqing, I bring you a force of nature, lightning on the battlefield and as quick as the storm itself. She needs no permission, no rules, only results. A general like no other, feared by enemies, yet admired by all. Please welcome the one, the only, the Merlin's Claw, General Feixiao!
I'm Feixiao, General of the Shenzhou yaoqing. Now that we're acquainted, should the Astral Express run into any trouble, feel free to contact me. The yaoqing will be there in an instant.
Once a mere war slave to the brutal Borisin, Feixiao has risen like a storm through the ranks to claim her destiny as one of the 7 Arbiter Generals. She's as unruly as a thunderbolt, a master of every martial art. She has forged herself into a weapon like no other. But for how long will this weapon forge a path for the hunt? Only time will tell. What I can tell you though, is that she just might have the most badass design in all of the Shenzhou, and that's a fact. But before I present objective evidence, my dear viewer, I would like you to take a moment to cast a spell of appreciation by hitting that like button. Send me a
Wow!
down below, and be sure to subscribe for more videos dissecting all the details of your favorite warrior fox waifus. And with that, let's jam.
Victory is inevitable! The Merlin's Claw is what's written in the books, and the Vanquishing General is what people call me. The former sounds too formal, the latter too exaggerated. Neither suits me. I prefer my own title, the Lacking General, lacking in worries, regrets, and rivals.
Rebels. Who doesn't love a good story about these guys once in a while, hey? Daring rogues swashbuckling their way through authoritarian rule and rigid governments. There's a lot to admire about their devil-may-care attitude, down-to-earth struggles, and relentless refusal to back down. It's the reason why we adore pirates, cowboys, and perhaps even the general of the yaoqing, because frankly, you just can't deny that there's a little bit of rebellious spirit there. From her laid-back idle animation to her musket swords and the Guilty Gear-looking belt-filled jacket, everything about this foxian screams rebel, don't you think? But what kind of rebel exactly are we talking about here? And to answer that, we gotta travel back all the way to 1950s Japan, folks. After World War II, the country had to find ways of rebuilding itself, sparking a wave of new and different cultural movements. Enter motorcycles, an affordable mode of transport that quickly gained popularity in a time when the Japanese automotive industry was still finding its feet, becoming synonymous with adrenaline and excitement. As bike culture grew, group rides became more widespread and gatherings got bigger, wilder, and louder, eventually evolving into what became known as the Kaminari-zoku, or the Lightning Tribes. By the 1970s, a new wave of young bikers hit the scene, bringing a rebellious edge to the Japanese bike scene inspired by the West. These thrill-seekers didn't just join bike groups, they took it further, forming actual gangs with hierarchies, custom bikes, and distinct fashion styles that became a signature. This generation introduced violence and joyriding into the mix, leading the media to coin a new term for these destructive biker gangs, called the Bossozoku. A defining aspect of Bossozoku culture was the group rides, where up to hundreds of gang members would gather and hit the streets in a massive convoy, waving flags and revving up engines. To create further camaraderie, they would wear long jackets decorated with symbols called tokofuku, which became the iconic uniform of the biker gangs. And even 50 years on, you can still see the influence and style of the Bossozoku reflected in pop culture, as well as a certain foxian general's design. Feixiao's look centers around her badass long coat, clearly inspired by the tokofuku. But that's just the start, because her design is packed with nods to Bossozoku culture. In terms of her attitude, her idle stances, both during skill and attack animations, feel like they're ripped straight from a Tokyo Revengers panel. Her need for speed is exactly why biker culture became so popular in Japan in the first place, and as for her fashion, it's all in the details. The brutalist ear piercings, high boots, numerous belts, dyed hair, and the massive flag she carries in her splash art and trailers, which mirror the gang flags famously carried around by the Bossozoku. And let's not overlook the intentional link between Feixiao's storm powers and her roots in a biker culture known as the Lightning Tribes. The only aspect of her outfit that doesn't directly come from Bosozoku are her leather gloves and the long pleated skirt, which are in fact inspired by a different type of Japanese delinquent group called the Sukeban, whose members did eventually join the biker gangs. Sukeban were all female delinquent gangs with their own rules and rituals, hell-bent on making their mark in a male-dominated world. And shake things up they did. Defying authority, they ditched the cute looks and short dresses, rocking long skirts and leather gloves as a protest against being objectified, leading to a badass look that still has influences in our foxian general's design. Heck, this might be a stretch, but the way her jacket strips off during her ultimate to reveal her sigil reminds me of good old Yakuza's obligatory pre-beat-down tattoo reveals, and I'm all for it. In short, there's a lot of Japanese delinquent elements in her style, but she wouldn't really be the general of the yaoqing if that was all there was to it, and this is where the more shienzo-y aspects of her design come into play. Unlike other characters we've met so far, Feixiao didn't originally hail from the Xianzhou, which explains the stronger Japanese influence in her style. However, just like any settler, she's woven elements of a newfound home into her daily life. That's why we can spot more Chinese touches in her design, from the sleeveless chipao top to the red clover knots and the circular jade pendant, all of these being signs of her integration into Xianzhou culture. One of the more unique aspects of her appearance would be the jewel embedded in the middle of her forehead, otherwise known as a huadian. Originating from the Han Dynasty, huadians were crafted from gold, silver or jade and were cherished by noble women as symbols of nobility, alluding to her role as a general. But forehead jewelry and long skirts does not a general make, and there is a pretty formidable reason as to why she's called the Merlin's Claw.
It is my blood, born from moon rage, coursing through my veins. The more I wield it, the more it grows. Yet for the sake of the Xianzhou's triumph, I have no reason to pause. God of the Skybow, let's have a competition. My speed outpaces that of a shooting star.
Each Arbiter General of the Xianzhou holds a unique title that embodies their essence, and Feixiao is known as the Merlin's Claw. Like a true Bosozoku, you can find the Merlin's Claw symbol on her jacket, flag, and the symbol of her talent. In the real world, the Merlin is a small falcon characterized by its incredible speed and agility, making it a swift and masterful hunter. Qualities that perfectly reflect Feixiao's prowess in hunting down Borisin and other abominations of abundance. Another connection that could purely be coincidental is that Merlins sometimes hunt in pairs, with one Merlin flushing out a larger flock from below while the other swoops in to capitalize on the chaos. Sounds pretty similar to a follow-up attack, huh? Another connection that could purely be coincidental is that Merlins do not construct their own nests, meaning they must get by living and using the nests of other birds. Sounds like a certain immigrant foxian general, huh? Of course, these connections might be a bit of a stretch, but the core link between Merlins and Feixiao is their fierce and swift nature as hunters. This connection becomes even more clearer when you learn the meaning behind Feixiao's name. Feixiao, translated roughly, can mean flying lofty or soaring in the sky. It's a name that can be used to represent swiftness, freedom, or the idea of rising above ordinary limits. Yes, these themes tie together the already mentioned hunting bird imagery and rebellious biker vibe, but it also serves to explain her role as an arrowhead.
I once followed the trail of a shooting star. And in doing so, I found freedom. But the place where it fell is no longer there.
As a slave, Feixiao once watched the arrows of the hunt streak across the sky, symbolizing light and boundless freedom, hopeful that they might free her and her friends from the Borisin's cruelty. But she soon discovered that these arrows showed no mercy, laying waste to everything in their path, regardless of friend or foe. Witnessing the devastation and losing loved ones to the very eon she served, Feixiao vowed to become the arrowhead herself. She pushed her speed to the limit, sacrificing her own body, all to reach the battlefield before the arrow did, and save at least one innocent life. It's a story that reminds me of the tale of Lei Gong, the Chinese thunder deity responsible for enforcing justice and maintaining cosmic order. With his bird-like face and lightning-producing chisel and hammer, he shares imagery with Feixiao, but I would say her role is closer to that of Lei Gong's wife, Dianmu. The story goes that the mighty Jade Emperor tasked Lei Gong with punishing only evil, but his punishments often struck the wrong people due to the dark clouds that covered the sky whenever he acted. Dianmu, a rice farmer's daughter, became an accidental victim when Lei Gong mistook her for wasting precious food. Furious at this mistake, the Jade Emperor revived Dianmu as a goddess and instructed her to marry and guide Lei Gong. Thus, her role became to use mirrors to illuminate the earth, ensuring Lei Gong's punishment only hit the guilty. This is why lightning comes first. Much like Dianmu's role with Lei Gong, Feixiao aspires to be the arrowhead of the hunt, arriving as quick as lightning to ensure that only the guilty are punished on the battlefield. Yet, one might wonder if her drive stems solely from a sense of duty, or if it also reflects the deeper guilt of sharing the same blood with the very abominations responsible for the deaths of countless innocents.
Life is ephemeral. And I only wish to be a piercing arrowhead, to be the hunt until my very last breath.
Moon rage, a state where one becomes a beast consumed by bloodlust. For the Borisin, it's a blessing, but for Foxians, it's a curse, driving them into a mindless frenzy and transforming them into bloodthirsty monsters. Feixiao knows that avoiding the fight and stepping away from battle could save her sanity. But if she ever wants to outrun the hunt's arrow, she has no choice but to push harder, teetering on the edge of madness with every swing of her axe. Time and time again she faces the Borisin, and time again she barely holds on, like a series of waves relentlessly crashing against the shore. And this is where we come to a key element of a design I've avoided mentioning until now. The wave motif decorating the bottom of her coat, as well as the repeating pattern known as segaiha. As an island nation, ancient Japan revered the ocean as a symbol of both life and destruction. It was boundless in providing sustenance and prosperity, yet held the terrifying power to take lives and wipe out entire civilizations. An unstoppable force of both creation and devastation. The real battle Feixiao faces isn't with the Borisin, but with herself. Like the unpredictable waves of the ocean, her inner turmoil surges from within, pulling her in different directions as she fights with all her might just to regain her balance. Time and time again, fear, doubt, and insecurity crash over her. Yet, what makes General Feixiao truly powerful isn't her ability to moon rage, but her unyielding will to rise up no matter how many times she's knocked down. Whether as a Bosozoku rebel against rigid authority, a small falcon defying the mighty flock, or a lone boat braving massive waves, her tenacity is her greatest weapon, the force that turns the impossible into possible. Just as waves keep returning to the shore, our own struggles can seem relentless, as if all we're doing is endlessly battling the challenges life throws at us. Yet, waves also symbolize human resilience, the power to endure and adapt. They remind us that like the ocean, we have the strength to weather our inner storms and eventually find clarity. And one day, like the ocean calming down after a storm, I believe Feixiao will also find peace by defeating all her enemies.
Keep running forward, for this path has no end.
And that is a wrap on episode 16 of the Design Gazette. If you enjoyed our time together, be sure to help me out by liking, sharing, and commenting down below on some of your favorite aspects about Feixiao. Links in the description if you want to buy me a coffee, and if you're new around here, hi, I'm the starward Crusader, and I have a whole series of Design Gazettes and story recaps for you to enjoy by hitting that big red button. Something I missed but only caught after the editing was how Feixiao's white wolf actually has some connection to Japanese mythology. Specifically, it references a Raiju, a white wolf familiar which was associated with the lightning god Raijin, much like how Feixiao is an arbiter general for land. I think this is pretty neat because it shows how Hoyoverse isn't afraid to mix cultures in order to create a unique feel for its world building instead of relying solely on one type of mythology. If there's anything else you think I missed, again, don't be shy, please be sure to tell me down in the comment section below. Currently working on chapter 3 of the Honkai Star Rail story recap, and yeah, it's going somewhere. Who knows, maybe it might even be done next week. Yeah, right. So until the next time I see you, dear Trailblazer, may your journey lead you ever starward.